Hey friends, today I'm starting my adventure photography journey, so let's go rock climbing. So I want to start reaching out to some adventure companies and brands looking for some photography work to do with them. But before I do that, I want to build up my adventure portfolio, so I've got something to show them that could hopefully inspire confidence in them that I can do a good job for them and provide them with some value. So a couple of weeks ago, I went rock climbing with some buddies of mine. We went up to the Blue Mountains. It was super cool. It was actually my first time going outdoor rock climbing, and it was a lot of fun. And whilst I was there, I got some photos. And today what I thought it'd be cool to do would be to talk you through how I got those photos and give you some insight into my adventure photography process and how I'm going to build up my portfolio. So let's get started. Okay, so my first tip for you, the first thing that I'm thinking about when I'm going out to do my adventure photography is telling a full story from beginning to end. I think so often when we think of adventure photography, we just think of the sweet shots in the middle of the story. You know, people hanging off the side of mountains and it's super high up and it's crazy cool, but that's not the full story, is it? There's actually more to that story, right? We have the gear that they're using, right? All the different ropes and harnesses and carabiners, and we also have like preparing that gear, you know, putting on your harness, tying the ropes, all the different actions that are involved with setting up. Then you have the sweet photos where, you know, you're climbing up the side of the wall and it's super cool. You have the sweet views from the top, it's awesome. And then you have, you know, being lowered back down the wall again, packing up and going home, right? So there's actually a larger story there. It's not just about the sweet shots in the middle. Let me give you an example. So I've got this photo here, and this is a photo just of some carabiners, some drawers, right? And it's not exactly the epic photos that we think of, but it's a part of the story. It's the gear. It helps us to see a more rounded vision of this adventure, right? We have shots of people setting up, putting on their harness, tying the ropes, doing all the different things. Here's another shot of different people as they clip into their harnesses, getting ready to climb, right? We're telling that full story. And then of course we have the epic shots where we're just, you know, climbing up the wall and it's looking super cool, and then, you know, rappelling back down again. Those shots are cool, but they are really made more meaningful when we capture that entire story and we tell that full adventure. So that's my first tip. Think about telling a full story. The second tip I have is to put a person in the photo. When there's a person in the photo, we as the viewers can almost imagine ourselves inside of it. So if there's a person in our adventure photos, we can really feel like we want to be that person, right? And that's what I think is really great about adventure photography, is it can inspire people to go out and try some of these things. Here's an example, right? So I've got this sweet photo of one of my friends sitting on a lookout. It's super cool, great view, love this photo. And I think it's great because we can actually see the person that's sitting there. We can put ourselves in their shoes and we feel like we want to be the one that's sitting on that lookout. For example, if I was to take that person out, here's a panoramic landscape of just that valley without the person. If we take that out, it's nice, but we can't really see ourselves there as easily. So that's my second tip, and the second thing I'm thinking about is including a person in my shot. So the third thing that I'm thinking about is using my angles, right? And I'm trying to think about whether or not I can use the angle that I take my photo from, whether it's a low angle looking up or a high angle looking down, or if it's just straight on, to tell a story, right? Because all these things can suggest subconscious things to the viewers. So here's an example, right? This example here, one of my friends, she's rappelling down from the top of the cliff, but I'm actually close into the cliff and I'm angled upwards, and we can really just see the face of that cliff, and it makes it look like she's a lot higher up than she actually is, sort of thing, right? So we're using that to tell a story. We're showing how high up she is, what an epic climb it was, and then, you know, there's a lot of different ways we can look at that as well. So here's a shot straight on, right? Here's a shot where we're looking straight on to one of my friends as they're climbing, and you can see also that they're sort of looking down, right? It makes us feel like we're sort of there with them. They're super high up, looking down at the rock climbs below them. When we're sort of equal with someone, we can position ourselves inside of their emotions. And so we can tell a story that way by positioning ourselves equal with them as they're in the middle of this climb on this epic wall. So the next thing to think about is different shot sizes, right? You got close-ups, you got mid shots, you got wide shots, and it's using all of those intentionally, right? So general rule of thumb that I have that's not always true but can be true is that close-ups are for things, right? Like here we got some close-ups of some of those carabiners, close-ups of the drawers. That's a thing. And then we have mid shots. Those are for telling the person in the story and what that person is thinking, right? So this is a bit of a full shot, medium full shot, sure, but it's sort of thinking about like, oh, we can place ourselves in the shoes of the person that's climbing right now. They're thinking, oh, how am I going to get over this rock face, you know? So the mid shot is about the person and the action. And then you have the super wide shots, right? And that's returning to shots like this before, where it's about the location. It's about, where are we? We're on top of the cliffs, we're in the Blue Mountains, we've got this sweet valley below us. You know, we're telling the story using all of our different shot sizes. And that just gives us some variety and some interest as well, which really can help round out our portfolio a lot better. So the next thing to think about is feeling. And that's what we should always be thinking about as photographers, is how are we making our audience feel when they see this photo, right? And here's my favorite one that I absolutely love. I love this one here. It's one of my mates. He's climbing on the wall, and you can see him looking down to the ground below him. And I think to this photo creates just a sense of like height. There's almost like fear or danger that's involved with that. It looks like he's high up, he's looking down towards the base. I think that tells a good story and delivers an emotion, a bit of like a danger or a sense of adventure. I kind of like that. The other one that I really like is this one here, right? It's just my mate, but he's got his harness over his back and he's looking up at the wall. And I think that's got a sense of like desire, of longing, like he's ready to climb. He's been waiting for this. He wants to go climb, and now he's here and he's excited. He's ready to go. He's just contemplating his climb. It's like there's a story there, right? It's an emotion, a desire to go climbing. So I think if we can sort of channel that emotion inside of the mind of our audience, our photos become way more powerful. And the last thing to think about is working with the conditions, right? So when we were there, we actually only had one set of harnesses, so we could only have one person climbing and one person belaying down below. And normally, if I wanted to get shots that were equal with someone on the climb, what you would normally do is have a second set of harnesses, right? And you would have someone else with a camera climbing up beside the person who's already climbing to take some shots that are side on to them with them, right? That's how you get all those cool epic photos. We didn't have that, so I had to adapt. And one way that we did that for getting these shots where you're sort of halfway up the wall was we actually walked up to this rock ledge that was about halfway up the overall climb. And so I just sat there with my camera. I used a telephoto lens so I could get pretty close in on the people that were actually on the wall. And instead of having to climb, I could just sit there and take photos. It's not quite as effective, but it problem solves and it gives us a similar result. So that's my last tip for you there, is just to be trying to work with the conditions that you've got and problem solve, and just enjoy the opportunities in the photos that you can get with what you've got at the time. Alright, there we go. So those are my tips, and that's my process at this stage for how I'm thinking about my adventure photography. Well, there you have it, guys. My adventure photography career has officially started. I am very excited. I hope this portfolio can lead to my first freelance gig with adventure photography sometime soon. And if you guys want to follow along with my adventure photography, go ahead and check out Tim Duncan Photography on Instagram. That's where I'm going to post all my adventure and travel content, so go ahead and give that a follow. I'm going to link that in the description below, and I'll also put a little card up here for you. You can also check out my photo mission videos. Those are videos where I travel to different locations, and I talk about my process of taking photos in those locations. I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and also in the end cards of the video. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know, did you learn something today? Are you going to make your own adventure photography portfolio? Do you have any advice for me as I start out my adventure photography journey? Let me know in the comments below, and whilst you're down there, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, make sure you hit that notification bell. I'm planning on doing some adventure vlogs in the future, so look out for those and make sure that you are subscribed, you are notified, so that you don't miss out on those. Definitely do that. But thank you guys so much for watching, I really appreciate it. I will see you next Wednesday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.